What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. We're talking all things episode 9 of Daredevil Born Again. The finale is upon us. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the channel. We are 2 subscribers away from hitting 200 subscribers. We need your help to do it. So like this video, share it all across the multiverse, and then hit the notification bell so when we drop new content, you'll be the first to know about it. Whole lot of things to talk about with the finale. Just right off the bat, to get it out of the way, I loved the way the show ended up. Was not a 10 out of 10 in terms of comparing it to maybe the Netflix show. Netflix show had 3 seasons to kind of flesh out some things, to do some different character building and use the world that they were in. But there's a whole lot of things that I really loved about the way that Disney Marvel took it over and expanded on some things, particularly in terms of world building and in terms of how the city of New York felt bigger in this series than it did in the Netflix show. The Netflix show was great, but everything, even though you knew it was happening in New York, felt very small and localized. And so this one, people are asking a lot of questions like they should. Where was Spider-Man? Where was this person when all these things go on? But I think the writers did a good job of making the situational things so quick and localized that it was very easy to say, well, this happened so quickly, but it happened on a grand scale, and so maybe there's fallout from this. I'm curious to see how this series and the things that are happening in it play into the things that are coming up, in particular Thunderbolts, because it takes place in New York, and also Fantastic Four over the summer here, if that has any kind of ramifications or if they make some nods. Probably more in Thunderbolts than anything else. Ironheart after that comes out in June, and so there's a lot of things that could really tie into it, given the way that they did the world building in this show. I liked how they honored the Netflix show and built upon it. There were some pacing issues with regard to the way they did reshoots and the way they rewrote this series, but I really, really liked all the different elements that they pulled in and the way they told this story. It was still gritty, it was still brutal, it still had real world implications, and you got to see all the different facets of Daredevil and Matt Murdock. They hinted at and talked about his faith in some different elements, but not nearly as heavy-handed as they did in some of the Netflix series where he's actually going to confession and doing some different things. But I thought the way they did that really played into where he was as a person. So not really that bad, and not really disappointed with it at all. I really enjoyed it and loved it. This episode in particular had some really awesome moments. As it wraps up, we're going to talk about a few of those. The whole series, they've been talking about who you are behind the mask, and does the mask define you, or is who you are in the mask the same person you are underneath it? And so this juxtaposition and comparison between Kingpin and Matt, and Daredevil and Fisk, and where are they? Where do they start? Where do they begin? Who are they underneath? And are they wrestling with who they really are? Who comes out on top? Who really understands what they're doing and why they're doing it? And the 2 biggest things, especially in this episode, compared to the back and forth that Fisk and Matt have in the diner scene in the very first episode. The very first episode, they talk like they've changed, and hey, if you get out of line, you're gonna be my excuse to come back and be the person that I always was. Juxtaposed with the things that happened in episode 9 at the end, where Detective Gallo, right before he is brutally murdered, says, you never stopped being the Kingpin. You were always the Kingpin. The facade was merely pretending to be mayor, but he was always the Kingpin. As opposed to Matt, who has a conversation with Karen at the end to say, Daredevil is a part of who he is, and the ability to be able to jump in front of a bullet to save someone like Fisk has nothing to do with his battle or his vengeance or his hatred or the darkness inside of him, in terms of whether or not Daredevil is the darkness and Matt is the light. But Matt is Daredevil and Daredevil is Matt. And so when he jumps in front of a bullet to save somebody, that's just as much Matt as it is Daredevil, because he's good-hearted and he wants to see justice, and he wants to see all those things work out for good. The same things that he did with Punisher in this episode, where this is not who we are. We're not going to kill this person. We're not going to do this. But to still be able to fight alongside them. Frank does what he does, Matt does what he does, and when Matt is able to step in and Daredevil's able to step in and say, no, this is not who we are, he knows when to fight and what to do and what to say. And the conversation he has with Karen about that he thought he was immune from the darkness, that he was all good, but that the darkness is always inside of him, but he can be Daredevil without that darkness, and he doesn't have to succumb to it, that he can give into it, as opposed to Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, who is that darkness, but he pretends a show with the light, and it's very apparent right down to his white suit that he tries to put on this persona of purity and perfection, but it has more to do with who he is and his moral code, and he feels like he is whole when he is being Kingpin and doing these brutal things, as opposed to the fight that Matt faces with his Daredevil persona. And so I thought they did a really good job of wrapping those things up, and the fight scenes were excellent in these two episodes, not just in Matt's apartment, but the fight scenes after that with Frank and the Vigilante Task Force. I thought the way they wrapped these things up and the way that Fisk uses this opportunity to enforce his will, to push everything over the breaking point, that look how out of hand these vigilantes have gotten. One of them was on trial for killing a police officer. One of them killed Hector Ayala. We have all these people roaming around at their Muse is a vigilante in a mask, and lumping them all in together. If you wear a mask, you're a villain. And since Kingpin doesn't wear a mask and he does his violence right out in the open, he feels like he's better than that. And so this battle all season long, and Fisk being able to twist on, just all of a sudden and use the situation, particularly when he says, talking about Matt, that a dead hero is better than a live vigilante, which to me, if you didn't catch it, lets you know that on some level, whether he's told him completely or not, his right-hand man, Buck, is probably aware of who Matt Murdock is. And so, or at least that he has some vigilante leanings. Now, whether or not other people in his staff or the Vigilante Task Force know, I doubt that they know, because there's a radio broadcast that Frank picks up with the Vigilante Task Force where they said, went to Murdock's apartment, no sign of Matt, but Daredevil and Punisher showed up. That they still see them as two different entities, so they don't really know who he is or which one is which and that kind of thing. And so, just Kingpin's twist and his pivot there to use the opportunity where he gets shot at to institute martial law, to create a situation by disabling the power overnight, to try to lure these folks out, to get rid of the cameras so that they can do what they're doing, to lure out the enemy, right down to them, the Vigilante Task Force shooting a young man who was robbing a store, and then throwing his hoodie over his face and saying, oh, he's a vigilante because he's wearing a mask. All of these tactics, that how Kingpin his influence can rub off, and how evil can spread in the same way that good can spread. And I think this whole season was who are you underneath and what defines you? Is it the darkness spreading in you and that influence, or is it something greater? And what code do you live by? And how do you handle yourself in those situations? And Matt being able to stand up as Daredevil in front of people and say, we need an army, to not go in guns blazing, but to do it right, and to say, we can beat him, we're going to do it the right way, was a really great way to wrap it up. And the story and the writing was still on par, and I really enjoyed it. The cameos and the connections, and Karen being thrown back in, the possibility of some love interest there moving into season 2, the way that they're going to continue this story. If you watched the prediction video we did for episode 9, I encourage you guys to lower your bar and just enjoy what was coming, because they know they're getting a season 2, so there's not going to be any massive cliffhanger. The bonus scene we got was excellent with Punisher, where we see Frank escape from Fisk's prison. Now, whether or not he released everybody else remains to be seen, but Marvel has given us some indication that there's going to be some kind of feature presentation, some kind of special presentation a one-off, maybe an hour-long, hour and a half long Punisher TV episode to explore his story. And they're probably going to do that instead of a full season, because the violence and the gore and all the different things on that for a long season, week after week after week is a lot for people to stomach on a Disney platform. And so special presentation you can watch or you can't, gives people a little more room to separate from that if something is meant for mature audiences. And so I think they're really going about it the right way. I'm excited to see how Daredevil fits into the rest of the Marvel Universe, how Kingpin, because he's mayor of New York, fits into the Marvel Universe. And I'm hoping the way that they released this series with Thunderbolts coming out just in 2 weeks will allow them to actually make a nod to Mayor Fisk. Whether or not they do that remains to be seen, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see, particularly that and with the Ironheart series coming out. I think there's a whole lot of other things we could talk about here, particularly with what might be coming in season 2. Interested to see what you think about that with the Red Hook Free District, with Punisher on the loose, Karen back in the fold, whether or not Foggy is actually dead, and Fisk and his wife Vanessa finally joining forces, and the Vigilante Task Force being out there. All of these different things make for a very volatile New York City that won't just be held intact and isolated to the Daredevil section of the MCU. I think it's going to have farther reaching implications in addition to the Spider-Man movie that's coming out. Fisk calls a man who swings around like a spider. Those kind of things are all part of that Marvel can explore moving forward. Really looking forward to Bullseye. I think season 2 is going to be a Bullseye heavy season, and that character is amazing, insanely diabolical, and amazingly played by Wilson Bethel, and just that character is almost akin to Joker to Batman as it is to Daredevil. And so I think that's going to be a lot of season 2, in addition to all these political leanings. And I think Bullseye is just there to throw a wrench in everything. He's not the main protagonist or antagonist, but he's there to throw a wrench in everything. So it'll be interesting to see how that all comes out. Add your comments below, add your theories for season 2 and what you thought about the series as a whole. I loved it. In terms of the Netflix series, I think it's, Netflix series is probably a 9 out of 10. This Disney series is probably a 7.5 out of 10. 7 out of 10, given that there was an episode in there in the middle that was kind of a standalone, so it really didn't push the plot forward, felt out of place. But I love the stories anyway. I love getting to see Daredevil on the screen again and part of the MCU. So want to know what you guys think about those things as well. Am I right? Am I wrong? Hit the button, do the things, share the video, and check out some of our other videos, guys. We got a lot of things you can sink your teeth into. We'll be back when Thunderbolts drops in 2 weeks, and until then, we'll catch you later. Bye.